Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. One of my favourite knife making companies is Civivi. In fact, one of my favourite knives, possibly my favouriteest knife, is the Civivi Elementum. So when they got in touch and asked if I'd like to have a look at the new Sokoke, I said yes, why the hell wouldn't I? There's some really nice talking points in this, from the steel to the scales, and the fact that you can get all of this and not break the bank. This is what we're going to have a look at today, so let's just get straight into the... I missed the flick! Let's get straight into the Civivi Sokoke. So here we have the Sokoke. Now, I will freely admit, somebody commented before that they weren't impressed that I didn't try to use the accent of the country or the accent of the you know, whichever language the word is used. I'm guessing it's pronounced Sokoke. That is just a pure guess from a fella from the Kingdom and the Moorlands that doesn't even know where it's from. I probably should have checked, but hey, if Sokoke is a word from your language, let's hear below in the comments, and I apologise if I have said it wrong. So there you go. Now, as we usually do, we'll look through some measurements, we'll look through the knife and some of the features on here. I guess we'll start off with some measurements as it's open like this. So open from the tip of the knife all the way through to the butt of the scales. Here it comes in at 194 millimeters. When it's closed, closes with the liner lock there. So when it's closed, it does have a slightly extended tang. That tang is there because it can be used as a front flipper to deploy the knife. Oh, sorry, just gonna focus again there. But if you'll see, the tang of the knife does extend maybe 2 or 3 millimeters past the end of the scales. But all in all, from the extended tang down again to the butt of the scales here, it comes in at 111.7. So let's just round that to up to 112 millimeters. The length of the blade itself, the ricasso on this, again, so there's a few knives that I've looked at recently where the ricasso is reasonably small, and because of the extent, or at least the way that the scales sweep here around the pivot pin, the sharpening choil does go quite a way back into where the finger choil is here on the actual hand, on the scales itself. So there's very little difference between what you'd class as, I suppose, the cutting edge does come forward maybe an extra 3 or 4 millimeters there. But all in all, with a little bit of waffle on there, it comes in at 85 millimeters. Just so you're aware, here in the UK, I always make sure that I mention this. So this is not UK knife law friendly to be carried, and this is very specifically in public places. This is not an illegal knife to own. The main reason that this can't be carried in public places is that the length of the blade is over 3 inches, and as it is also a locking knife, that statute says it can't be carried in public places. This is not an illegal knife. It can be carried whilst I'm here. I can own this at home. If it's not classed as a public place, I can carry this knife. It's not an issue. So, getting back, the length of the blade itself is 85 millimeters. Turning this over, as far as the thickness of the stock, I quite like this thickness. I think it's very good. It's 3 millimeters. It adds a nice weight to it. However, I wouldn't certainly class this as a heavy knife. It's just about right, what you'd expect for an EDC knife. As an additional measurement, when it's closed and you hold it on its, I suppose, on its belly like this, or on its spine, whichever way you want to hold it, not including the pocket clip, the width of the scales comes in pretty much on 13 millimeters. It's a fraction of a hair less, but just rounded up, let's call it 13 millimeters. As I mentioned though, that doesn't include the pocket clip, which is probably an extra 4 millimeters on there. whilst I'm talking about the pocket clip, sorry about that, but whilst I'm talking about the pocket clip, it's removable. You can take it up if you want. There's 2 small screws in there. I think they're T6s. Or if you're a lefty, then you can move it onto the opposite side. So there's just some extra little options on there for you should you want to. Now, getting back to the front end, or the sharp end, as you know, the professionals like to call it. The steel on this is one of my favourite steels. It's a Civivi 14C28N steel. Sorry about that, I think a bit of a frog in my throat today. Where was that? Yes, Civivi steel, and also with the N on the end, there is a slight injection of nitrogen into this just to help with its corrosion, anti-corrosion kind of properties. You'll see that there is a coating on this, but as far as the blade is concerned, it is a perfectly flat grind. I mean, I'm ever so sorry about this. I think we keep going out of focus because of the similarity to the ground underneath. I probably should have put something underneath here. But yes, beautifully flat grind. The grind goes all the way up from the belly all the way up to the shoulder here. The sweep on the belly goes all the way through to the end here. This is classed as a drop point. Sorry, I was just about to say clip point, but it is a drop point. It does almost look a little bit clip pointy. I think the way that they've put the swedge on here, the swedge does make it look like a clip point, but there's definitely not an angle where the spine changes direction with a pronounced angle. So I'd definitely say it's a drop point. Maybe very close to a spear point, but the geometry on the belly here and across the shoulder, it's not identical, and I would say that the actual point is past the middle point on there. That's a lot of me talking about the blade geometry today. There's nothing on this side as far as Civivi or anything like that, but I think because Civivi used a little C here on the pivot point, on the pivot pin, then that kind of makes sense. But on the back here, you can see that this was designed. I hope I get this right. I know his first name is Ray, but is it Laconico? Ray Laconico, however it's pronounced. I apologise, Ray, if I've just butchered your surname there. But yes, it's a very, very nice design. Almost has that kind of Puko look to it. I think if this was a fixed blade, it definitely has that Puko look and feel. I like the geometry through here. I like how this line continues and then it just curls off a little bit closer to the end. Fitting this into your hand, it actually has a more natural feel. The way that your palm, now the palm swell on here or getting your fingers on there is great, but it does naturally contour. You have this fleshy bit here in your hand, so it does fit perfectly into your hand should you want to have a full 4-finger grip on there. The palm swell on here is great. Your finger choil on here is great. Your finger just does fit in there perfectly. There is some jimping here and some jimping here. Doesn't kind of add a massive amount of control on there, but I don't necessarily think this is the type of knife that you're going to be going out and hacking down trees or skinning animals with. But it does a great job of just being able to hold your fingers there. The rest of my 3 fingers, if I hold this at my hand where it's the widest, all of my 4 fingers can hold this and control the knife. The scales on here, I love Civivi scales. I think Civivi scales are some of my all-time favourite. Starting to rain here a little bit. But this is made from a burlap micarta, and if I hold it on the end here, hopefully you can see, or especially on the inside here, you can see how some of the fibres of the micarta are starting to come through. I don't know what they do to it. Maybe it's the way that they make it, or maybe they just roughen it up with a little bit of sandpaper. But having those the the fibers comes through just make it really nice and tactile in your hand. Also adds to the grip as well. I certainly wouldn't have any worries about this slipping in your hand. It does a very good job of you know, controlling that. Construction wise, you have your pivot pin. There are 2 additional spacer pins here. Rather than being barrel spacers, they hold on to the main spacer that goes through probably about half of the way down the spine, all the way through to the butt. And then if you can see it in there on the inside, the liners on this, so this is classed as a liner lock. So here's your liner lock, which you can just manipulate over to the left so that you can close the knife. It is just a single detent, these sort of knives with the liner lock on there, just to have that one, or I say a single. I guess there's 2. There is a detent in closed, and there is a detent to keep it fixed and to keep it open, but there isn't a 9 o'clock or a 45 degree or anything like that. It's either open or it's closed, but the detent does a good job of holding it in there. You can flick it open, but it does take quite a bit of effort to deploy the knife. You can do it, I guess I was going to say one of 2 ways, but I guess with that weird kind of flick you can do that. But mainly you can do it with your thumb. There's just something about Civivi knives. They have got everything right when it comes to the thumb flick. You've got caged, what are they? They are the caged ceramic ball bearings in there. It's just a joy to flick. I'm sure that's what she said in there. Anyway, you can do it reverse side. I'm not the best at these. In fact, yeah, I really am not the best. Or if you want to, you can do a front flick, which again, I'm really not the best at anyway, but you can kind of do it. I think all that's needed to finish off the holy trinity of deploying methods would be to have a flipper here at the back, but there's plenty of options if you prefer a certain way to be able to open this. The lock on there is great, it's strong, there's certainly no movement. As far as wiggle in the blade itself, there's none whatsoever. It's in there, it's locked nice in place. When it closes, it is perfectly centered. I always forget to check this on other knives, but yes, this is perfectly centered. It's just a great knife. I think if you're after an EDC knife, the Sokoke does a lot of things right, and I think it's just another example of Civivi doing what Civivi does well, and that's making knives for the everyman. You know, this isn't a particularly expensive knife, considering it's got a nice steel on there. Now I say the steel, so the steel is what you'd class as a mid-range steel, but I would definitely say it's on the higher end of that mid-range. But considering that you've got the burlap micarta on there, you've also got some very nice kind of pivot joint mechanism, not mechanism, but your bearings in there. There's a lot in here that some other manufacturers that would charge you twice the price certainly wouldn't add. And again, I'm going to say it, but I think this is Civivi doing what Civivi does well. I definitely say that the Sokoke is just another fine example of what Civivi do well. Yes, some of you might be like, oh, they're a Chinese brand, I don't want to buy Chinese knives. You're missing out on something. We Knives, Civivi Knives, you know, they're all part of the same company. And I guess really I'm addressing the elephant in the room here, that yes, there are some cheap Chinese crap out there, but I genuinely do believe that companies like We Knives and Civivi are bucking that trend. They're creating knives, you know, 14C, the burlap micarta on this is amazing. The action is ridiculously butter smooth. There's just so many things about this that make it a great knife, and if you're the type that's not going to look past this because of where it was manufactured, you're definitely missing out on something. Hopefully there shouldn't be any sort of snobbery when it comes to knives like this, and I think this is a great example of what Civivi do well, and also what I look forward to seeing more from Civivi in the future as part of, you know, a worldwide knife making community. So yeah, a huge thank you to Civivi for reaching out to me and asking if I'd like to have a look at this knife. I look forward to other, I just can't stop flicking this. If you're ever in a Zoom call with me or a Teams call with me and you're like, bloody hell, what's that clicking noise? Randy, it says your phone, it says your line's clicking. Because secretly underneath I'm flicking one of these. So yeah, where was I? I will leave all of Civivi's links below so that you can see more from them and where you can pick one of these up. I'll also leave some of my social media links here on Moorlander EDC and my other channel, Moorlander Tactical. But for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay flicking your Civivi knives. I'm here to make some content. Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this... Oh, I've got an itchy leg. It's probably an ant or something. It's gonna rain. Well, it is slightly. Spitting! It's spitting! Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. So, don't start your content with a so or a now. I do that a lot. Now, let's talk about this. Knife. Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Now if you're after, I did it again, I started with a now. I don't know why I start with a now. There is something so fidgety about that thumb flick. It's just the best thumb action. There's gonna be that's what she said in here somewhere. There better be. Is for me. Okay. Let's tell the truth here. My favourite one is the Baby Banter. Oh, that is on my desk constantly. That's what I fidget with all day. I probably have a groove. In fact, I do have a groove in my thumbnail because I flick that so much. And this is excellent too. Yeah, you have to deploy this. I know you can do the front flipper, but it's got to be that thumb flip. We're here today to look at the Civivi Sokoke! I don't know. I wish this rain would do one! Just realised I was still recording. And I'm talking to myself. I'm not talking to you. I should be talking to you, not talking to myself. Yeah. Have a great day.